Can you trust the science of the Great Reset? Or the economic motivation behind the corruption of science in America? Can you trust science? The short answer is not, while it is controlled by our present war-spawned economic system, which is a Ponzi scam that must eventually collapse and require a great reset. The man-made global warming scam is based on the fake science produced by the private monopolies and trusts which require the worldwide control of governments to control the supply of oil. Their fiat money scam is based on the monopolistic control of the oil supply. The price of oil is determined by its scarcity. Hence we need the peak oil idea that oil is a limited resource which we must fight to protect in the interest of so-called national security. The science which contradicts these goals is suppressed by the monopolistic control of the media and publishing industry by those who control the fiat money scam. Switching to a gold-based economic system will only make things worse, as the same people who control the fiat money scam also control Russia and South Africa, where the vast majority of the world's gold reserves exists. If the US switches to gold after the great collapse of their Ponzi scam, they will use their control of the world's gold supply to create another Great Depression the way they created the last one. Then they will reinstitute another Ponzi scam with their Great Reset. Oil-eating microbes have always been a big problem for the oil industry. So why is there any oil at all? Oil from life or life from oil? Did life originate in an abiotic oil well? Everyone is looking into hydrothermal vents to find life's universal common ancestor and ignoring the oil-eating microbes that threaten to wipe out all of that precious quote non-renewable resource end quote. Yet in oil wells we find communities of microorganisms dependent on one another that reek with insights on how eukaryotic cells could have evolved from bacteria, archaea and viruses. How long could a protozoa have survived in such a hostile environment as a hydrothermal vent? Wouldn't it be much easier for it to build fatty acids from an abiotic oil supply such as Atribacteria? Then use magnesium to enrich its supply of phospholipids, which are absolutely necessary for the evolution of DNA and RNA, which are both dependent on magnesium ions for their synthesis. Without a phospholipid bilayer, the chemistry of life could have gone nowhere. It is rather disgusting perusing the internet and reading how publishers and scientists are bullied into supporting the official lies of our fraudocracy. The global warming hoax is based on biased so-called research, where temperatures were recorded in cities which represent a tiny fraction of world surface temperatures. Hence we have the so-called hockey stick spike in global temperature. In reality, data from areas far from the cities, where people create heat in the winter to keep warm and export heat into the environment in the summer to keep cool, show no net increase in temperature over the last 100 years. The whole theory of the CO2 greenhouse effect is based not on the ability of CO2 to retain heat but on its ability to refract infrared radiation from the sun on the planet Venus. The pressure on the surface of Venus is equivalent to 90 Earth atmospheres. At these pressures, CO2 can be expected to act more like solid glass than a gas on the Earth, and even though the surface temperature of Venus is hotter than an oven, water can theoretically exist in a liquid state. The greenhouse effect observed on Venus has nothing to do with the weather on the Earth. The Earth revolves every 24 hours, creating convection which distributes the heat throughout the planet. Compared to the atmospheres of Earth and Mars, there is virtually no convection in the atmosphere of Venus. It rotates so slowly that a Venusian day is actually longer than a Venusian year. Venus also has active volcanoes, so the planet emits more infrared heat energy than it gets from the sun. Yes, Venus is a very strange world, completely unlike Mars and the Earth. The atmosphere on Mars is close to 100% CO2 as on Venus, yet there is no global warming on Mars. Temperatures plummet during the night, just as they do in a dry desert on the Earth, and Mars has seasons like the Earth. This would not be true if CO2 was causing global warming on Mars. Yet there are scientists that contend that CO2 has a slight global warming effect on Mars. Well, here is the NASA data showing the fluctuations in day and nighttime temperatures on Mars. See for yourself if you can detect any greenhouse effect. I can't. Back in April 26, 2014, I did a simple global warming experiment to find out if the presence of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere had any effect on global warming. I posted the results on my website. It is a rather simple experiment that anyone can do. 2 coffee jars were prepared. one with a garlic jar full of club soda placed in it and the other one with a garlic jar full of purified water placed in it. The lids were closed tight and the temperature was monitored overnight and during part of the day. These two jars lost and gained heat at the same rate. To repeat this experiment, take 2 8-ounce plastic Maxwell House coffee jars. Place 1-4.5-ounce plastic Beta garlic jar filled with club soda, purified water plus CO2, in one of the coffee jars and another 4.5-ounce plastic Beta garlic jar filled with purified water in the other coffee jar. Insert a cheap thermometer in each coffee jar and close the lids tightly. Put no lids on the garlic jars. Place the coffee jar on an outdoor table in your backyard. Prop the jars up with clear glass meatloaf pans to keep the wind and the damn birds from knocking them over. Record the readings. Results. As you can see from the data, no difference between the coffee jar with its atmosphere saturated with CO2 and the water control coffee jar in terms of temperature change can be detected. Conclusion. The theory that CO2 is a greenhouse gas on the Earth is BS, bad science. The Lenin Academy of Agricultural Sciences announced on August 7, 1948 that thenceforth Lysenkoism would be taught as the only correct theory. All Soviet scientists were required to denounce any work that contradicted Lysenkoism. Scientists who promoted Lysenkoism with faked data and destroyed counter-evidence were favored with government funding and official recognition and award. This same practice of Lysenkoism has long been underway in Western science in regard to the politically correct theory of man-caused, catastrophic, global warming. The disgraceful episode of Lysenkoism brings us global warming theory.